coffee shop was closing when I walked inside. A tired girl was stacking chairs and killing time. She said, "Looks like you're headed somewhere far away." I smiled and said, "I'm leaving more than miles today." The parking lot was silver in the moonlit haze. My old car waiting patient like it knew the way. I tossed my duffel on the seat beside a road atlas and watched the town grow smaller in the rearview glass. The dashboard clock blinked 4:15. Every mile felt lighter than the one before. I'm leaving before the light, before the world decides to pull me back with familiar hands and old reasons why. The highway rolls ahead, a ribbon through the night, and somewhere past these county lines, I'm leaving before the light. A grand elevator rose against bleak eastern sky, like a lonely monument to years gone by. I wore the same blue shirt I'd worn 3 towns ago, and my jacket still carried the smell of last night's rain and road. The radio found a station from another state, playing songs about people trying to outrun fate. Somewhere a truck stop sign flickered red and gold, like a lighthouse for the restless and the souls untold. The sun was drawing colors through the fields, and every mile was helping something heal. I'm leaving before the light, before the questions arise, before I talk myself back into the life I left behind. A highway rolls ahead, a ribbon through the sky, and somewhere past these county lines, I'm leaving before the light. A chance to start again, a place where old mistakes lose track of where you've been. Maybe home is not a place that's fixed upon a map. Maybe it's the peace you find when you stop looking back. I'm leaving before the light, with nothing left to hide. The morning breaking wide across the fields on either side. A highway rolls ahead beneath an endless sky, and for the first time in a long, long while, I'm leaving before the truck stop waitress filled my cup and asked me where I'd been. I said, somewhere west of yesterday, somewhere east of where I've been. She laughed and slid the check across Said, that's not much to go on. I smiled and pointed through the glass. My map's whatever road I'm on. The white lines rolled beneath the wheels like pages turning by. Another county disappearing under a moonlit sky. Then the signal found me somewhere past Route 9. An old familiar melody I hadn't heard in years of driving by. And for a little while the miles all fell away. I wasn't crossing state lines anymore. I was back in yesterday. It was the song she'd always sing, with both feet on the dash, hair dancing in the open wind, summer moving fast. Backward every town was new, and every dream seemed near. Funny how a 3-minute song can travel 30 years. The station crackled in and out like it was barely there, but every word came through as clear as smoke upon the air. Then the signal found me somewhere past Route 9. Familiar melody I thought I'd left behind. And for a little while the miles all slipped away. I wasn't chasing morning anymore. I was back in yesterday. Maybe memories aren't anchors, maybe they're old signs by the road, not telling us to turn around, just reminding us where we've rolled. Maybe every life we leave behind still rides a little way in songs that drift from nowhere on a frequency of yesterday. Then the signal found me beneath the widening gold. The song faded with the darkness, but the feeling lingered on. And as the daylight broke across the state, I smiled and drove towards somewhere new. No longer running late. I took the old road through town today, past the diner on the Texaco. The church bell still rang every hour. Some things never seem to go. Then I saw it standing on the corner at the end of Willow Lane. White paint fading in the sunlight, looking smaller than it did back then. I slowed down without thinking, like my hands already knew. Some roads don't lead you somewhere new, they lead you back to you. There's a sale sign in the front yard, leaning slightly in the breeze. And suddenly 100 summers came rushing back to me. The porch where we sat talking, the tree we used to climb. Funny how a simple sign can turn a road into a time. Basketball hoop still hanging, though the net gave up years ago. And somebody painted the shutters blue, they used to all be green, I know. The driveway looked much shorter than it ever seemed at 10. I guess that's how the world behaves when you finally come back again. The windows held new curtains, the mailbox bore a different name. Yet standing there beside the roadside, I could still see everything. There's a sale sign in the front yard, leaning gently in the sun. And all the years between then and now collapsed into one. The laughter from the backyard, the bikes left in the rain. Funny how a simple sign can make old ghosts feel young again. The distance all seemed gone. Maybe we're all travelers on roads we never planned, leaving pieces of ourselves behind, like footprints in the sand. There's a sale sign in the front yard, waiting for somebody new to fill those rooms with different dreams and make their own memories too. Then as I drove away, I realized nothing really stays the same, but every place we've ever loved still remembers our name. was cleaning out the glove box at a red light out of town when a cracked old plastic cassette case came tumbling upside down. On the spine and faded marker, barely hanging on alive, 2 words and a pair of numbers. Summer '09. I could almost hear your laughter, riding shotgun once again, back when every road felt endless and every weekend had no end. Summer '09. You said, kid, you gotta hear track 5, windows down and speakers rattling, as we chased the county lines. You were 5 years older, 10 years cooler in my mind. Funny thing, I'm older now than you were in summer '09. You knew every back road shortcut, every diner worth the drive, every band nobody'd heard of that somehow made us feel alive. You talked about the wider world like it was waiting just ahead, and somehow made impossible things sound ordinary instead. Back then I thought you knew everything, had the answers every time. Now I know you were still figuring life out, one day at a time. Summer '09. You said, don't spend your life standing still, take the long road if it calls you. That's where all the stories live. You were 5 years older, 10 years cooler in my mind. Funny thing, I'm older now than you were in summer '09. I don't know where life took you, if you're nearby or far away. Maybe you've forgotten those old drives, maybe not, I couldn't say. But every time I hear those songs or watch the daylight slowly fade, a little part of who I am still traces back to those days. Summer '09, the tape hiss and the dashboard lights, the feeling that the whole wide world was waiting just outside. You were 5 years older, 10 years cooler in my mind. And I hope somewhere life was kind to you since summer '09. Summer neon sign was buzzing like it hadn't slept in days. Rain rolled down my windows in long silver streaks and waves. I took the last stool at the counter, shook the highway from my coat, ordered coffee and a slice of pie, and watched the waitress take my note. You nodded from the corner like we'd met somewhere before, though I knew we'd never cross paths on any road I traveled on. Coffee at mile marker 83. Funny how a stranger could leave a memory. Just a half-hour conversation while the rain fell steadily. Coffee at mile marker 83. You spoke about Montana and a dog you used to keep, a daughter studying medicine, and the nights you couldn't sleep. You said life wasn't a highway, more a map nobody reads, for the roads you never planned on, in places you don't mean to leave. I laughed and said, that sounds about right. You smiled into your coffee and watched the passing headlights. Coffee at mile marker 83. Funny how a stranger could see something in me, like we've been swapping stories for years instead of minutes free. Coffee at mile marker 83. You never asked my last name, I never learned yours too. Some people leave a mark behind without intending to. Maybe that's the secret to all the roads we roam, 100 brief encounters that somehow help us home. Coffee at mile marker 83. The storm moved east, the clouds broke free. You paid your check and tipped your hat, and disappeared into the evening breeze. And every now and then, when rain taps softly on my street, I think about that stranger and coffee at mile marker 83. Dashboard clock blinked midnight as the white lines drifted by, one hand resting on the wheel, one eye on the sky. The radio had gone to static, the towns were getting small. Then up ahead in green and yellow, last exit before the toll. Funny how a road sign can open doors you thought were closed, like an old photograph unfolding from somewhere deep below. The last exit before the toll, one more chance to change your mind, one more road disappearing into the darkness, off to the side. Some choices cost you money, some cost years you can't recall. I still think about the ones I missed at the last exit before the toll. There was a girl in Oklahoma, the job out west I never took, the band that nearly made an out on a dream abandoned halfway through the book. Funny how the roads not traveled stayed brighter than them all, like they're still waiting somewhere past the last exit before the toll. Maybe every life gets measured by the roads we choose to stay, not the ones that look romantic as they faded far away. Last exit before the toll, one more chance to change your mind, one more road disappear into the darkness, off to the side. Some choices build a future, some become the stories we retell, then some remain a question mark beyond the last exit before the toll. Truth is, I don't regret much. The miles were worth the ride, but every now and then I wonder who I'd be on the other side. Would he be any wiser? Would he stand any taller? Or would he still be chasing answers down another midnight corridor? Last exit before the toll, the sign flashed by and disappeared, like so many moments that only make sense years later. The road kept rolling forward, the moon hung silver over all, and I made peace with what I chose at the last exit before the toll. emptied out my pockets on a motel tabletop. A handful of loose change, a receipt and a watch that stopped. My house key and my car key, the ones I use each day, and one old brass companion that somehow never stays away. The edges have gone smooth now, the numbers worn away. I couldn't tell you what it opened, only what I still can't shake. It's the key that fits nothing, no lock, no door, no gate. A little piece of yesterday that time could not replace. I could leave it in a drawer somewhere, forget it for a while, but some things stay because they hurt us, and love them all the while. There used to be a porch light at the end of a gravel lane, a screen door singing on its hinges every time the summer changed. A voice from somewhere in the kitchen, a laugh from down the hall. Funny how a single object can still remember it all. The house is long gone now, the land belongs to someone new, but every road I travel still somehow leads me through. It's a key that fits nothing, no lock, no door, no gates. A little piece of yesterday that time could not replace. It doesn't open houses, it doesn't open rooms, but it holds a second heartbeat, and all that I have lost. Oh, maybe we're all carrying fewer things we can't explain, not because they're worth a fortune, not because they're rare, just small reminders of people, places, years, the things that tilt the roads beneath us and quietly brought us here. And sometimes they break us open softly over time, till every memory feels like grief, and every small thing shines. It's a key that fits nothing, yet I keep it on the ring, beside the keys that still have work to do, and the places they still bring. One opens up the present, one reveals where I've been, and somehow they both matter, for reasons hard to pin. One keeps a second heartbeat, one keeps the ache alive, and I hold them like the fragile proof that love can still survive. was looking for a parking receipt and an old wallet I'd almost thrown away, when a folded scrap of paper slipped out and landed where the dashboard light could play. 7 digits in blue ink, written in a hurried hand. No date, no place, no explanation, no clue I'd understand. Funny what survives the years when so much else gets lost. A face can fade completely, but a question never does. There was no name beside it, just a number and a line, like a doorway left standing long after the house was gone. I can't remember where we met or why I kept it all this time. There's something made me save it, though I never made the call. Maybe it was Oklahoma or a diner further south. Maybe we talked till closing time about dreams we couldn't live without. Maybe she drew it on a napkin. Maybe I promised I'd get in touch. Funny how the mind preserves the feeling more than the facts themselves. The details all have weathered, the edges all have blurred, but every now and then I still wonder what happened after those words. There was no name beside it, just a number and a line, a tiny piece of evidence from another life entirely. Some roads leave tire marks, some disappear without a sign. Yet here I am, still carrying the moment I carefully found. I thought about calling once just to hear what time it done. Then I laughed and folded up the paper. Some mysteries belong to everyone. Maybe nothing would have changed, maybe everything would have, but some stories stay beautiful because they never got the chance. There was no name beside it, no photograph, no clue, just a number surviving quietly after everything else was moved. The moon hung pale and small, and I placed it back inside the water without making the call. The same old bar beside the highway, the same red neon in the rain, a dozen faces at the counter, a dozen stories wearing different names. I tuned the strings and took my place there, beneath that faded Budweiser sign. Before long somebody shouted, "Play that old one more time." And I smiled because I knew it. The chords were living in my hands. Funny how a song can travel further than the man. But the song nobody requested, the one nobody came to hear, still waits somewhere between the verses every time I pick up this guitar. Not the loudest, not the famous, never climbed a chart that high, but it still sounds like home when the room goes quiet. I wrote it in a rented room above a laundromat downtown, with more ambition than direction, and a world I hadn't figured out. Most of those dreams have changed addresses, most of those years have slipped away, but somehow that forgotten melody still knows exactly what to say. Maybe that's the strange thing about the roads we leave behind. The things that mattered most to us never really leave our side. The song nobody requested, the one nobody came to hear, still waits somewhere between the verses every time I pick up this guitar. It doesn't need an audience, it doesn't need applause. Some things stay alive because they matter, not because they're known. Maybe everybody carries a version of that song, a photograph, a promise, a place they've quietly held on to, a thing nobody asks about, the thing nobody sees, yet somehow it's the very thing that helped them become who they be. The song nobody requested, the one that never had its turn, still finds its way into the silence. Every time the night grows still, the crowd went home an hour ago. The chairs are upside down and I'm still sitting here playing the one that stayed around. off where the highway bends, killed the lights and let it end. The engine ticking soft and low, nowhere left I had to go. Lying on the hood alone, watching stars come one by one. Something in that midnight blue started bringing memories through. Old roads, old names, old days I thought I'd left behind, drifting back across my mind. The sky full of forgotten things, broken dreams and wedding rings, old postcards and melodies still floating on the evening breeze. Some are gone and some remain, like footprints washed away by rain. But every now and then it seems they're shining in between the beams. A sky full of forgotten things, screen doors singing in the dark, somebody laughing in the yard, tobacco hanging in a coat, a half-remembered note she wrote, summer maps and county lines, songs we sang another time, tidy pieces life let go, still traveling where the night winds blow. Old friends, old towns, old words I never said aloud, still moving through the clouds. A sky full of forgotten things, broken dreams and wedding rings, old postcards and melodies still floating on the evening breeze. Some are gone and some remain, like footprints washed away by rain. But every now and then it seems they're shining in between the beams. The sky full of forgotten things. Maybe nothing disappears, maybe distance changes years, turning moments into light, scattered through the endless night. Maybe every road we knew leaves a little shining through, long after the journey ends, long after the turning bends. A sky full of forgotten things, every loss and everything, every face and every mile, every tear and every smile. Though the years keep rolling by, they're still written in the sky. And every now and then I see there's still a part of me. A sky full of forgotten things.